12 yards, one ball, one goalkeeper. For a professional footballer, this should be the easiest shot of their entire career. They've practiced it thousands of times. Their success rate in training is close to perfect. So why, on the biggest stage in the world, do some of the best players on the planet completely fall apart? It's called the penalty effect, and the science behind it is stranger than you think. Let's start with a number that should be impossible. When a penalty shootout is tied and a goal would win the game outright, players score 92% of the time. Almost guaranteed, but when a player is taking a kick that, if missed, would lose the game completely, that number drops to just 60%. Same player, same distance, same goal. The only thing that changed is what's at stake. That's not a skill problem. Researchers found that psychological factors mattered more than skill or fatigue in determining whether a penalty went in. So what's actually happening in a player's brain in those seconds before they strike the ball? Scientists actually went and measured this. Using brain imaging technology, researchers scanned the brain activity of players as they took penalty kicks under pressure. And here's the strange part. The players who missed weren't using the parts of the brain you'd expect for a physical skill. Instead, their brains lit up in regions linked to long-term thinking and over-analyzing themselves. In other words, their brain switched from athlete mode to anxious overthinker mode at the worst possible moment. There are actually two competing theories for why this happens. The first is called the distraction model. As pressure builds, players become hyper-aware of threat, and their attention shifts either inward toward fear of missing or outward toward over-focusing on the goalkeeper. The second is the self-focus model. This theory argues that under pressure, players start consciously thinking about the mechanics of the kick itself, something that should be completely automatic for a professional. It's the sporting equivalent of suddenly thinking hard about how you breathe. The moment it becomes conscious, it stops being natural. But here's where it gets even weirder. This effect isn't just about the individual kicker. A study of every major penalty shootout between 1976 and 2006 found that players on teams who had lost previous shootouts performed worse, even if those exact players had never personally been part of a losing shootout before. Read that again. The pressure isn't just personal, it's inherited. A team's history follows its players onto the pitch, even players who weren't there for it. It's a kind of psychological scar tissue, passed down not through DNA, but through shirts, badges, and reputations. So the next time you watch a player place the ball on the spot, take a deep breath and step back. Remember what's actually happening. It's not really 12 yards and an empty net. It's decades of history, a stadium of noise, and a brain quietly arguing with itself about whether to trust years of muscle memory or to think. And for one player, in one moment, that's often the difference between a legend and a question that follows them for the rest of their career.